You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. Be sure to smash that like button. Both Brian Kelly and Brian Harsin took their turns on the SEC coaches teleconference earlier today, previewing LSU and Auburn. For Brian Kelly, he did talk about this being their first road test headed to the Plains.
First challenge for us in the SEC as it relates to being on the road. So, playing a team with the caliber of talent that Auburn has will present a challenge in itself. But, anytime you go on the road, those challenges, being in a hostile environment for the first time, certainly will be a challenge for our team. And, just all of the logistics will be a first time for us in this team. So, the opportunity exists for us to, continue to play consistent football. We'll have to make sure that we're not distracted by travel and, obviously a very pro Jordan-Hare Stadium. But that's why you play these games in the SEC. I know our guys are excited about it. You could tell by the way we practiced yesterday. There's an anticipation of playing in these kinds of games.
Look, and I can imagine, considering how last year ended with Auburn coming back from the 2-score deficit in the fourth quarter, Bo Nix pulling off a Houdini act, and Auburn beating LSU in Tiger Stadium for the first time in 20 years. There's going to be a lot of people in purple and gold uniforms on Saturday at Jordan-Hare Stadium that are really looking to go make amends for what happened a year ago. Brian Harsin, of course, was on the sideline a year ago in Tiger Stadium when he witnessed that comeback of his from his quarterback, Bo Nix, who's, of course, now at Oregon. And his quarterback now is from Oregon, and Robbie Ashford. So a lot of connective tissue here with this game with LSU and Auburn. But here was Brian Harsin on the biggest differences between LSU a year ago and what they are now.
There's some differences this year, I think, scheme, offensively, defensively, and there's obviously different schemes. Really feel like this year they're on a 3-game winning streak, and Coach Kelly had talked about that. You can see the improvements in their football team in all 3 phases, and I think there's some really not significant differences from that standpoint, but just scheme-wise, they're just doing different things. I think they're utilizing their personnel well, and that's showing, in the games that they've played, the last 3 in particular. So I'm very impressed.
He didn't go, obviously, into too much detail, as he's not going to give away a game plan, but noting that there are differences from a year ago to what they're going to see now. And in part, one of the big matchups is going to be that Auburn offensive line against LSU's defensive front 7. Like we've talked about, Auburn is not dynamic in the passing game, but they do have the ability to run it with Jarquez Hunter and Tank Bigsby. But now without Tate Johnson, you're down to your 3rd-team center heading into this game against a really good LSU defensive front.
Anytime you're facing a good front, it's a challenge. No matter how good you are up front, with your own line and tight ends, you're going to have, for lack of a better term, a battle every single play. You got to win the one-on-ones. You've got to do your job on the double teams and take advantage of that. And, you've got to be able to pass protect. So those guys make it a challenge because of what they do and who they are. And that's the thing that we have to work through this week is getting prepared for that and the speed of how they're going to play.
On paper, Auburn is balanced. They throw it for 202 yards a game. They run it for 174. But if you're actually looking at maybe a 1-game sample, with a Power 5 game that they played at home against Penn State, in that ball game, Auburn threw it for 296 and ran it for 119, but that was on 36 carries. So it was an average of just over 3 yards a carry. So if you're LSU, you would take that. Like you would love for Auburn to shorten the game by running it a lot and holding them to 3 yards a carry. One thing that clearly is going to be interesting is Robbie Ashford's ability to make plays. Now, I'm assuming I'm sorry, Muse, can you first this was Brian Harsin giving an update on TJ Finley. It's number 4. Finley, he was injured in the game against Missouri and then, against Penn State, and they benched him in the second half after the strip sack. He returned from the injury, was benched, and then didn't play last week against Missouri. But here's the Finley update.
He was out there yesterday. It's a day-to-day with him and all those guys. And it's always going to be that way when guys are coming back from missing a game. But we'll see how he goes today. We'll see what it looks like. And other than that, still, I think Robbie is continued to practice well and like where Holden's at and the things he's doing.
All right, so TJ Finley on the season, of course, didn't play against Missouri, but on the season is completing 62% of his passes. In 3 games, he's thrown for 431 yards, 1 touchdown, and 4 interceptions. So Finley has not been good and obviously does not really present much of a running threat. The opposite is true for Robbie Ashford, who can make plays as a good athlete, was actually a 2-sport athlete at Oregon, can make plays running the football, but hasn't really been as dynamic throwing the football. So here was Brian Harsin giving sort of a thumbnail on Robbie Ashford and his development so far this year.
Well, I like his preparation. I mean, I think Robbie's shown some toughness, and that's always big for me. And I know, there's a lot that goes into that, but I just, I think he's shown tremendous toughness. He's played extremely hard, and now the next step is just really playing the quarterback position, being able to stay in the pocket, being able to deliver the throws, and just that really comes from experience. It takes a little bit of time to figure that out and get a better feel for it. But now I think even in the last game, I thought he did some good things throwing the football better than he'd done. And there was a couple balls that, they didn't get caught, but he had some touch on him. He did some things that we see that I'm impressed with, that we've been working with him on, he's been working on. And I think every single week he's gotten better and better. So I just think, the more that he gets an opportunity, the better he's going to be.
I believe there's some truth to that. In the same way that the more Jaden Daniels continues to play at LSU, he's getting better and more comfortable. The same is true with Robbie Ashford. The difference is you're talking about a younger player who hasn't played a lot, whereas Daniels had played a lot and has been very consistent in his performance over not only his 4 games in Baton Rouge, but his 3 years prior at Arizona State. But the timing for LSU, like we talked about on Tuesday, and getting Joe Fouche back is actually very, very convenient. Joe Fouche, Major Burns has a neck injury. He's going to miss 3 to 6 weeks. And Joe Fouche is now eligible for the first time this season after having some academic issues with transfers, with credits transferring over from Arkansas. And Fouche did meet with the media on Tuesday. First of all, he talked about what it's like to actually be eligible now.
It feels great, man. The 4 weeks I was out, I was still preparing every day like a game. And now that I finally got the opportunity, to practice, prepare, and now that I get to play Saturday, I'm just ready to go.
So this is why I think it's very significant for Joe Fouche this week in particular. Joe Fouche, during his time at Arkansas, was a very good box safety. He was a very good run defender. He was a guy that wasn't afraid to come up, play in the box, and meet a running back at the line of scrimmage. He's 5'11", 208. So he's not your long, rangy, flip your hips and run type safety. He's a guy that'll come up and hit you. And look, a year ago, he had 72 tackles at Arkansas. In 2020, the COVID year where they only played 10 games, he had 60 tackles. And the year before, in 2019, he had 87 tackles. Again, this is a guy that is not afraid to come up and stick his nose in there and make tackles. This isn't just a guy who's playing the deep middle. So, in particular, in this game, when you have a running quarterback where you might need an extra man in the box who can step up and who is not afraid, who's athletic, who's not afraid to run and hit, I think Joe Fouche, he's perfect for this game in particular. Now, I don't know if Joe Fouche is going to be your best option against Tennessee with the style of offense they run. But a box safety that's willing to come up, put his nose in there, hit you, make plays in the run game, that's Joe Fouche. I mean, that's what he did for 44 games that he played at Arkansas over the last 4 seasons. So I think this is a perfect game for Joe Fouche. And Fouche did talk about defending Robbie Ashford.
He's a great quarterback. He's sitting in the pockets. He can scramble. So just the game plan we're gonna have for him. I mean, it's a nice game plan. We respect his game. He can throw the ball, he can run it, he can pass, he can do it all. So just being able to prepare for him this weekend is gonna help us out.
And as we mentioned yesterday on AFR, Joe Fouche in his previous 4 years has played Auburn 4 times, had never beaten Auburn. He's 0-4, so he's got an opportunity to win for the first time. Whoever it was that asked the question, thank you for listening to AFR and for asking Joe Fouche about having never beaten Auburn.
Definitely, I don't know if y'all probably, because I know I lost to him before. It was you know, with the fumble, the backwards pass thing. So, I mean, you know, now that I'm here, it's the same, you know, mentality that I'm going to have when we play them, you know, go out there and get the dub, you know, for the Tigers.
Joe Fouche, he'll be on the field for LSU this weekend. He'll wear number 13, and, man, they need him. And I think he is perfect for a game like this. He and Jay Ward together, I think, are perfect for a game like this. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.